Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a topic shrouded in serious pop culture mythology, the actual reality of corporate governance at the absolute highest levels. We're talking about what really goes down behind those closed mahogany doors. Look, if you've ever pictured a corporate boardroom as this place where a booming, tyrannical boss slams a fist on the table dictating the company's future, well, you're definitely not alone. But the truth, it is way more counterintuitive, heavily regulated, and honestly so much more fascinating. Let's uncover the reality of corporate power.
Take a second and ask yourself, who actually holds the power in a boardroom? It's so easy to picture that dominant chairman figure from the movies, right? The one bossing everyone around, steering every single conversation, demanding total loyalty. It's a compelling image for sure, but I want you to take that image and just toss it right out the window. Today we are completely shattering that myth. We're going to see how true power in the modern boardroom isn't about having the loudest voice. It's all about strict adherence to process, structure, and absolute neutrality. So here's our roadmap. We'll be hitting the chairman's true role, the agenda governance protocol, director-led deliberation, the legal record, and finally, independent safeguards. Let's jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the chairman's true role, and that massive gap between the myth and the reality.
There is a massive line drawn in the sand here. On one side, you've got the procedural role, stuff like opening meetings and enforcing time limits. On the other side, the substantive role, actually debating or expressing opinions. And here's the kicker. For a chairman, that substantive side is strictly forbidden. No way around it. Think of them like a referee. The ref starts the clock, blows the whistle if someone steps out of bounds, makes sure the rules are followed, but they absolutely do not get to kick the ball. The chairman is an agenda setter, not a debater. They are legally barred from influencing, framing, or steering discussions in any way. Those referee duties are heavily defined. They open and close the meetings, keep order, enforce strict time discipline, ensure every single director gets an equal shot to speak, and they rigorously enforce conflict of interest rules. Now, I know, these might sound like purely administrative, maybe even slightly boring tasks, but actually, they're profound. These strict duties are basically the armor that protects the most vital governance requirement of all, independence of judgment. Global best practices absolutely mandate this separation. Why? To guarantee that decision-making stays entirely transparent and totally untainted by the influence of just one powerful individual. Moving right along to Section 2, the Agenda Governance Protocol, which is all about the pre-meeting setup. 48 to 72, that is the magic number. A solid governance framework demands that the agenda is submitted a strict minimum of 48 to 72 hours before the meeting. This hard and fast rhythm of preparation, it's totally non-negotiable. And the reason is simple. The boardroom is absolutely no place for surprises. Directors need that lead time to digest highly complex information, otherwise they can't actually apply that critical independent judgment we were just talking about. You also can't just slap a vague topic on the agenda and call it a day. Every single item has to have a specific policy reference, clearly state the required decision, and include all supporting docs. Crucially, and you really want to notice this last part, no operational or management level items are allowed unless a specific policy requires it. Agenda items have to stay strictly in the lane of policy implementation, oversight, compliance, and fiduciary duties. Day-to-day management, that is forcefully kept out of the room so the board stays laser-focused on high-level governance.
So what happens if a massive emergency suddenly pops up? Well, if an item is added during the meeting, it must be explicitly marked as added. And look, this isn't just some quirky formatting rule, it's a rigid mechanism for absolute transparency on the legal record. If something sneaks past that 48 to 72-hour window, it gets a giant metaphorical added stamp. It's essentially the corporate equivalent of a scarlet letter. This guarantees that anyone reviewing the process later on, like an auditor or a regulator, can immediately see that the item bypassed standard protocol.
Which brings us to Section 3, Director-led deliberation. The agenda's locked, the 48 hours have passed, now the actual meeting kicks off. The second the meeting starts, the dynamic shifts completely. The independent directors take the field. The rules of deliberation here are crystal clear. Only board members discuss and debate. Remember our referee? The chairman is required to maintain absolute silence regarding their own opinions, preferences, or personal interpretations, not a peep. And the CEO and their team? Management only attends to present information and literally only when explicitly invited. They are guests in this room, definitely not residents.
It all boils down to this golden rule. Decisions must be based on independent judgment, recorded clearly as resolutions, and supported by evidence. Just think back to some of the more chaotic, unstructured meetings you've had to sit through. You know, the ones dominated by whoever happened to speak the loudest. These rigid boardroom rules exist precisely to prevent that exact chaos at the highest level of business. Decisions cannot be based on the chairman's gut feeling. They have to be objective, evidence-based, and completely documented.
Speaking of documentation, let's step into Section 4, the legal record, focusing on post-meeting minutes.
Now I want to slow down for just a second here to really underscore the immense legal gravity of these documents. Board minutes are not dramatic transcripts of who threw shade at whom during a heated debate. They are highly neutral, factual, and concise legal records. Structurally, they capture attendance and quorum, the specific agenda items, the actual decisions and resolutions, precise voting results, and action items with crystal clear owners and deadlines. They reflect the decisions, not the drama. This isn't just corporate habit. It is the global standard to ensure these minutes are legally defensible records of board action.
And here is how those minutes build into permanence through the endorsement protocol. Step 1. The draft is circulated incredibly fast, usually within 24 to 72 hours after the meeting ends. Step 2. The directors rigorously review it and propose corrections, ensuring those neutral facts are perfectly captured. And Step 3. The final minutes are officially endorsed by the board at the next meeting or through a written resolution. The moment they are endorsed, they become part of the permanent corporate record. This exact process aligns with strict legal requirements across multiple global jurisdictions. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Safeguards for Independence. This is the vital safety net operating entirely behind the scenes.
To absolutely guarantee that the chairman doesn't exert undue influence, there is a serious web of strict compliance rules. First, there can be zero private pre-meeting discussions or sidebar chats with directors about agenda items. You cannot quietly lobby for votes in the hallway before the meeting. All materials have to be shared with the full board simultaneously. No one gets an early sneak peek. If there's a conflict of interest, recusals have to be formally recorded. And keeping an eye on all of this? The corporate secretary. They act as the ultimate guardian of procedural integrity. They are the unsung heroes making sure the referee is actually playing by the referee rulebook.
Let's cap this all off and see how these pieces fit together. The chairman? Agenda setter only. Agenda items? Strictly limited to policy and oversight. Discussion? Entirely director-led and evidence-based. Decisions become formal resolutions, and minutes are strictly neutral and factual. And all those safeguards demand absolute procedural neutrality. What this brilliantly illustrates is that in a properly functioning, legally compliant boardroom, true power does not lie in a charismatic personality or an intimidating boss. True power lies in procedure, structure, and an unyielding commitment to independent judgment. I want to leave you with a thought to take back to your own professional life. We've just seen how the highest levels of corporate governance deliberately muzzle their most senior leader in order to protect the integrity of the group's decisions. So look at the meetings you sit in every single day. If the highest-ranking leader in a corporate boardroom isn't legally allowed to steer the conversation, how balanced are the decisions being made in your organization? It's a fascinating question about structure versus influence. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning the structures around you, and I'll catch you next time.